Hello and welcome to Talk to Stu live with me, Stu Magoo. Thank you all for joining us, and if you can hear everything and the sound's coming through okay, hit that heart button in the chat and let me know that the sound's all good. Hopefully it is coming through. We've got quite a lot show lined up for you tonight. Lots of exciting things because it's, of course, the day after Budget Day, which is always fantastic. So I'll be dropping a proper news update video on the budget very soon. So I'm just going to go over those things today. So it's probably going to be a little less ordered than I normally do in that sense. But we'll try and get through it as much as possible. So first up, Becky's not joining us this evening. She's otherwise engaged, but Duke of Nuke is in the chat doing the moderation. So he'll be plucking out your questions and popping them in the feed for me. So I'll be able to see those things. So you can all chat away and I won't miss your questions. Okay? Because Duke is pretty good at picking those up for you. So first of all, big thanks to all the subscribers and supporters who've wished me well. Over the last month or so, I've been really quite poorly with a nasty infection. I'm starting to get over it now. Still not 100% there, but getting there. And still on the antibiotics and whatnot, which reminds me I've forgotten to take my evening antibiotic. But anyway, I'll do that after. It's all good. John says it could be louder. It could be, but according to my view meters, it's maxed out. So I can't push it any louder from here. Not sure what to suggest there. As long as the audio's coming through, not a great deal I can do. I'll give it a little tweak. Little bit of a tweak. There we go. That's about as much as I can go. We're starting to go into the red now. Okay, so John said, it was his problem, so I'll just tweak that back down a bit. Okay. We don't like red lines. Okay. How's that? There we go. Right, so usual rules apply in this kind of chat. We obviously want to keep it nice and friendly as much as possible, and if you want to ask your questions or make comments and things like that, that's absolutely fine. But this is a bit of a broad church. We have people joining us from all faiths, religions, backgrounds, and all sorts of things. So if there are any comments that are made that could be arguably a little bit on the nose, then you may get a warning, and if it continues, then you might get removed. Also, do remember, try not to post too much in the way of all caps and emojis, as sometimes YouTube picks these up. I think I've disabled those things to stop that happening, but sometimes it might be that YouTube just automatically picks it up. So let's get on to the news side of things. So the budget, well, a bit of a disappointing budget. So the first thing that's, not that any budget has ever been, made people jump for joy, I don't think, but this particular one isn't great. It's been confirmed that the cost of living payments scheme that was going on is ended. It's not going to continue. So the last cost of living payment was the last cost of living payment for the foreseeable future. So that's a bit of a shame. People were obviously hoping that would be renewed. There will be a 6.1% increase in April across all of the benefits. A couple of small exceptions, but generally across all of the benefits. That is fine, but it doesn't really match the fact that inflation was sort of 11% for the majority of last year. So it's not really going to make a huge difference to a lot of people. A little bit of a difference, but not a huge one. So that's, a bit of a shame. No further increases announced on that side of things. The Household Support Fund has been extended. So what the Household Support Fund is, for those who don't know, a certain amount of money is given to local authorities, local councils, for them to make decisions about how they support people in their area and to provide funding to them in one form or another, maybe not in cash form, to help with increased cost of living, or if people are in some sort of crisis situation. Now, it's completely different in each local authority as to how that is distributed. It might be that there are cash grants available. More likely, it might be vouchers towards heating or food, things like that, or it might be donations towards essential items for the home, which might include white goods sometimes. But it really varies quite a bit across all the areas. Now, the issue with this is that the Household Support Fund was earmarked to end. And if it was going to be renewed, then really we should have been told in the previous budget that it was going to be renewed. But yeah, they didn't do that. They waited till now. So the problem is quite a lot of local authorities have already started winding up their schemes. And indeed, many have already spent their budgets on that. So anyone who was putting in a Household Support Fund application of any kind, not in every local authority, but in quite a few, was being told having their applications turned down. So what this means is if you were one of those people who was turned down previously, it may well be that if you apply again, you would be successful. I do say may. It's not guaranteed that you will be successful, but it's worth trying again if needs be. Now, if you're not sure what your local area does, I'm just popping a link in the chat so that you can see what's available by going on this and using this tool to be able to have a look at it. And I'll just show you what that is on the screen. So here we go. Got this set up. Here we go. Yes. So this is the Local Welfare Assistance Finder from End Furniture Poverty. And so you can search for your local authority here. So you could say, I don't know, Worcestershire. And you can have a look at what the Worcestershire Household Support Fund is and find out. Yeah, okay, I'll accept. I don't recommend accepting cookies all the time, but just for expedience, I'm going to today. So that will tell you what help is available through the Household Support Fund and how that is distributed there and how you apply for it. As you can see, we've got Acton Energy here, who are a Midlands-based charity that support people with energy debt and so on. So it all depends on your local council. So if you, as I say, use that tool, then you'll find that to be hopefully helpful and point you in the right direction if you know you're struggling. There are qualifying criteria with all of this, and you will obviously need to meet those criteria before you can apply. So yeah, give that a look-see. So going back to the budget, where are we? Yes, extension to budgeting advance loans payback. Now, this is going to affect a lot of people who are on universal credit, because one of the awful traps of universal credit, which we knew was going to happen even before it was introduced, those of us in the welfare benefits world, is the what's it called, the 5-week startup period in universal credit. So normally people get paid on a monthly basis with things, but for some reason that no one can quite understand, universal credit has a 5-week payment period at the beginning. So that for a lot of people, puts them straight away. If you were on a salary, for example, getting paid monthly, and you finish your job, redundancy, whatever, and then you apply for universal credit, it will come a month later. So if you've got a month and a week later, so if you've got bills coming out a month later, then of course those payments might not be met. And so to meet those payments, and for lots of other reasons as well, a person might choose to have an advanced budgeting loan. So the budgeting loan is then the paying back of the budgeting loan comes from your universal credit. So your universal credit is then reduced to afford to pay it back. Now, the problem with it is it's always been for a 12-month period. Now, in some senses, that's a good thing, because it means that it's all paid off within 12 months. And then in 12 months' time, if you're still on universal credit for whatever reason, then your payments increase and things balance out. But it means that first 12 months is actually quite a significant dent in your universal credit. And a lot of people end up getting more in debt, having difficulty with paying council tax support and housing benefit, because all that has to come out from the universal credit payment in most cases, and other things besides. And quite often people would take out other loans in different places and things. So yeah, having what they've done is they've now doubled that to 2 years. So in one sense it's good, because it reduces the cost on month for the advanced budgeting loan. So you're not losing as much universal credit on the month, but it does mean that your universal credit loan goes on for longer. So the repayments go on for longer. So yeah, it's, Martin Lewis has come out and welcomed the move, saying it's a welcome move. It lessens the burden on the payback of lowest incomes. And that is true in the short term, it does that. But what they could do is just sort out universal credit so people weren't, needing to get these budgeting loans, maybe not have that 5-week thing at the first place, or I don't know, make sure that it paid enough to live on, that sort of thing. So there we go. Now, some people, on the subject of debt, some people do get into debt and start struggling with that. And so people might be able to apply for a debt relief order. Now, ordinarily, this has incurred costs, which was £90. Well, if you can't pay loans back, where are you going to get £90 from? I think most people thought. So it was a bit strange. So what they've done is they've scrapped the debt relief order fee, which is fine. Now, you can't just get a debt relief order. You have to go and have a conversation with somebody at Citizens Advice or similar organisations to sort of be assessed for that. And they'll put in the application for you. So, and there's of course meeting specific criteria. So if you owe in debts more than 30,000, you won't be able to apply for it. Now, I'm not a financial advisor, and I generally stay away from financial agreements around debt, because there's a lot of different types of things out there, and they all have a different effect on you and your credit rating and all of those things. So it's best to get professional advice if you're thinking about that sort of thing. Don't just take my word for it. As I say, have a look for the Citizens Advice information and see if you can get help that way. The Money Advice Scheme has changed its name now. I was looking at it yesterday, but my short-term memory is not great, so I can't remember what that was. So, yeah, those are the main things. There wasn't really a great deal going on there. So, yeah, it's not been great. And let's see, Svetlana Kotova, Director of Campaigns and Justice at Inclusion London, said the budget was another missed opportunity to support disabled people, with Hunt providing little droplets of good news and a scary prospect of further austerity and cuts to support, which is, of course, true. And, yeah, it's a bit difficult to stomach. So there's not really any positive news from that side of things. Something that popped up in January, which I wanted to just pass on to everybody, is if you happen to be claiming pension credit, then an update has been issued so that people with pension credit can now apply for a TV license and get that for free. Now, as you recall, TV licenses for people of retirement over 70, I believe it was, were free anyway, but they changed that a couple of years ago, and now they've introduced a scheme whereby if you qualify for pension credit, then I believe the guaranteed element, then you will qualify for that. So you have to be over 74. You can't do it if you're 70. So I haven't done a lot of talk on pension credit, but basically, if you have pension credit less than £201, if you have your state pension less than £201 and 5 pence a week, you can get potentially a top-up through pension credit. A lot of people who get the state pension will also have a very small pension as well coming in, which is usually like £10 or £20 a week, something like that, from maybe a previous employer or some private pension, and that just takes them over the amount to be able to claim pension credit. So that can be frustrating for a lot of people. But if you do fall into that category, do look into it, because there are other elements such as reductions in dental care and things like that. So council tax discounts as well. So yeah, that's those bits of news for now. So I'm going to go into the questions and see what's going on in chat. So, wow, there's a lot of talk. Yes, these are arthritis gloves. Yes, I do wear arthritis gloves. I've got a lot of pain in my hands and things, general areas of my body, so I wear these. That's probably not the questions that we need answering, though, is it? Right, Brian. Brian says, can you please tell me, I have a 10-year PIP award ending approximately 2033. Should I get a light touch review then? Yeah, you should do. Generally speaking, these days, organisations are going for the light touch review. The reason for that is it just makes things a lot easier for the DWP to process. It's not about making it easier for you, unfortunately. It's just because they've got a huge backlog of reassessments. Now, one of the things that has come up recently is that people who, and I've mentioned this before, I think, people who have maybe not been awarded the right rate for their mental health conditions, following a court ruling, the DWP is being forced to reassess anybody that qualifies as having a mental health condition. So they are contacting over the next, however many months, contacting people asking them to apply for reassessment. Well, there's already an 18-month waiting list for reassessment, so that number is just going to increase quite exponentially. I think something like 300,000 people that will need to be reassessed, or some number like that. So so the light touch review was brought in, was it a year ago, 2 years ago now, just to kind of make that process a little bit simpler for everybody. But as I always say, when it does come to the light touch review, you need to still make sure that you've put something in all of the boxes, even if it is just all my conditions on this are still the same and have not changed since my last award. If that's true, of course, if they have changed, then you need to put in the information about how your conditions and the way they affect you have changed. Okay, so John Huggs, aka John Hughes. Stu, you can guess what I'm going to ask. I can, John. But will you address the transition payment today or in another video? So, the transition payment, we've talked about this a bit here and there in things, but it's a bit of a tricky thing. So basically, if people move from employment support allowance over to universal credit, then a transitional element is put in which protects the amount that a person gets. So the amount as you move from one to the other is the same. What happened with that is that some people were ending up with getting quite a bit less in certain circumstances, particularly if their circumstances changed or they were reassessed for their rate. And so when that's happened to people, it's meant that they've lost out on the severe disability premium. So when that's happened, many people have been in the position where they don't realise they have to reapply for the severe disability premium, and that hasn't happened, so they've lost quite a bit of money. Now, the first thing is that if you apply for the severe disability premium, you could get it backdated to the start of your claim, but you have to be very clear in your application that when the start of your claim is. So when you want it backdated to, you must make it clear that you want it backdated to the start of your universal credit claim. So it's a bit complex in that way. There were a couple of court cases about this, which all happened in sort of January and February last year when the result came out. And so there is supposed to be a compensation scheme for the people that were affected by this. Now, generally speaking, that has been addressed in the way that transitional payments happen now. So for anybody that's going through that, you need to be aware that as you transition over, everything will follow with it. But if you are due for a reassessment and your reward changes, that you go from you go from the limited capability for work group into the limited capability for work-related activity group, you will need to get them to redo your SDP, or vice versa. So either way, you may become eligible for SDP or you may lose eligibility for SDP, one of those things. So you need to be very careful as you go across to keep in touch with them about it. The big difficulty is as well, of course, they're not very responsive on the journal when you type those things in, so you must remember to phone them up and have these conversations with them. It does mean waiting on the phone for up to 45 minutes before someone will answer your call, but generally speaking you can request that assessment. Now, the specific thing that John is asking about, I can't actually answer at the moment. I'm waiting for the Child Poverty Action Group to get back to me. I've written to them about this to get really full details so I can do a proper video explaining this. At the moment, this is a bit like blah, blah, blah sorts of thing, but going through step by step what's happening, if there's compensation, who's going to be contacted, will people have to apply for it, and all of those things. That at the moment still isn't clear. At least not to me. If anybody has come across that information, please send it through. But as soon as I have that information, I will be chasing them tomorrow. As soon as I have that information, I will. So it's on my mind, John. It's on my mind. Julia Hurley. Hi, Stu. When the ESA, etc., all goes over to universal credit, will it all be paid on the same day as you get your universal credit? It should be. Yes, everything should remain the same. So that's part of the transitional agreement. The transitional protection is not just the actual amount, it's the rates you get paid in terms of what group you're in. And you should also have it go through on the same day. So there should be continuity for you. But what you must do is you must make sure that if you get that letter saying that you need to switch over to Universal Credit, you must immediately contact them. If you delay in any way, it's possible, like I say, it's possible to get it backdated if you've got a good reason and whatever, but there are quite complicating factors in that backdating process. So I can't really go into that in too much detail here. So the best thing to do is apply for it straight away. If you've got any confusion about how to do it, try and reach out to an advisor at the CAB or any kind of disability support groups that you might have in your local area. Supporting somebody very recently, I approached a disability support group and they said, we only support with PIP and DLA and attendance allowance. We don't help with universal credit related things. So you do need to check with local organisations that are set up for supporting disabled people exactly what it is that they will support with. In those cases, they probably just bounce it back to or signpost you back to the CAB. But yes, so as soon as you get that letter through, move on it as quickly as you can, because that will allow you to keep your transitional protection. Average Joe. Right, let me just take a sip of coffee. Hello, Stuart. I've been on Universal Credit for some years, and I initially refused the bi-weekly meetings and went to phone only, which was cool by me. They stopped calling me many months ago. Should I be worried? Well, I would say certainly get in touch with them through your journal to ask why those calls have ceased and if there's anything else that you're required to do. I wouldn't say be worried unless you've been issued with a sanction. Usually sanctions, you're notified, or you should be notified of a sanction. Sometimes the sanction comes through before the notification does, but you should be notified if there's any kind of sanction applied to you. There are, at the moment, quite considerable staffing shortages in job centres across the UK. So many, there just aren't enough people to keep up with the level of work that's required. Now, if you're receiving the out of work sickness benefit element to Universal Credit, then it may well be, if you're in the limited capability for work group, you know, they've identified that although you're not in the limited capability for work related activity group, you're less of a priority than people who are deemed as fit to work. So it might be something to do with that. But without knowing your situation exactly, I can't really say, but I would certainly get in touch with them. As soon as anything unusual happens, get it in your journal, get it in writing, take screenshots of your journal all the time. Each time you send a message, take a screenshot of it. Over a certain amount of time, messages get removed from what you can see. Your data still remains with the Universal Credit team, people, DWP, whatever, still stays there, but you can't see it anymore. So each time you put in a message in your journal, take a photo, take a screenshot on your phone. That's probably the best way. I understand when I migrated to UC, this is Little Blue Dress, I may end up owing some money to child tax credits. I've spent years trying to improve my credit score. Would owing money to tax credit impact my credit score? Well, it depends. If you are in a position where you are paying it back and you're meeting those payments and that's on time, or that your universal credit has been adjusted in the way that we were talking about earlier with loans and things, if it's been adjusted in that way, then no, it shouldn't affect your credit score. If, however, you get to a point where you've not been paying it back and they issue some kind of debt collection thing, then yes, it probably will. But as long as you're making those payments, it shouldn't, and arguably could improve your credit score because it will demonstrate that you are a responsible person who pays what they owe at the right time. That's the thing about credit scores, is if you never ever take out any credit in your life, then you will have a very bad credit score. You need to have some credit and pay it off to get a good score, because you need to be demonstrating that you're a good egg when it comes to paying money back. So yeah. When ESA goes over to universal credit, will it all be paid on the same day? Yeah, I did that one. June Gower. Hi Stu, my hubby as SMI and just won the tribunal. It wasn't good for someone with SMI, but still haven't heard from Pip. What should I do? Should I be worried? Editors. Note. Still haven't heard from Pip. Okay. Well, you should have. It depends when the tribunal went through, when the decision was. But yes, I would give them a call and find out what's happening with that as soon as possible. You should. There might be something else holding it up, and it might just be an administrative problem. But it's best to check and see if there's anything. So I would just get straight on the phone to them and find out what's happening there. So yeah. I wouldn't say anybody should ever be worried about these things necessarily. Don't worry about something until it's a problem, because quite often these things are just oversights and things like that. When if the tribunal has ruled that he is eligible for PIP at whatever rate, then that will be paid to you eventually or to him, and usually there will be a backdated payment in there which will be everything from the date that you originally applied or when you put in your renewal. So yeah, but certainly chase it up. If you've ever got any doubts, chase them up. Like I say, it does take 30 to 45 minutes to actually get to speak to somebody. But generally speaking, if you're kind of nice and go with the flow, then you'll get a fairly good response from them. Generally, not all the time, Not everybody's as nice as we all are in this group. Anyway, right, Jason Ramsey. Can I email you my question, please, Stu, as there is quite a bit of context that I need to tell. That is the difficulty with this sort of thing, is most of these problems that we're all facing do require that people give a little bit more context and a bit more detail. Certainly please do send that email through to me, Jason, and I'll have a look and see if I can answer it. The email, I will pop that in the chat, or if Duke's on it, maybe he can drop it in. Okay, so as I say, try and stay away from the chats about minorities and stuff like that in the groups, if that's okay. Where are we in there? So yeah, I'll pop the link in there. It's absolutely fine to have your own opinions on all these things. I'm not saying don't have an opinion. I'm just saying keep it fresh and sweet in this kind of public forum. That's the thing there. I can see Rob McCallan and that. Yes. So yeah. So I've popped my email in there. So if you've got a question that has a bit more detail and a bit more context and you want to spend some time writing that, do send it in and I'll have a look over. Quite often the answers are quite simple and quite often they're quite complicated. But I'll do my best to respond. I can't promise that I will respond very quickly. So it might be a few days before I get to respond to your message, because obviously I've got to try and fit it in through my actual around my actual day job. So yeah, just see how that goes. I'm seeing that people in here are talking about homelessness, impending homelessness. It's just ridiculous the way things are at the minute. People should feel that they're, at least secure in where they're living. Right. So Martin Ardle. What am I reading? Martin Arnold Can I ask, what is required to get the assessment people to provide a phone Zoom WCA, as my anxiety currently precludes a face-to-face? Thanks. Well, all that's required really is for you to request it. You may need to evidence that in some way, but that's kind of the point of the assessment, really, is to look at what you're doing. So it depends who's providing it, whether it's Atos or Capita or Maximus or whatever. I think Atos might be stopping doing it soon. Anyway, whoever it is, they should provide you with the ability to be able to join the WCA either by phone or by video link if you're not able to make it into a centre. One of the things that they have been doing is trying to make centres much more accessible. So the DWP recently issued a statement saying it was, going to be on the ground floor and, things like that, that no longer doing them up the stairs and whatnot. The reality is that's no good for people with massive anxiety, it's something that you need to just keep badgering them over. And if for some reason you were to be denied that, then I think that would evidentially over time during an appeal and so on and so forth work in your favour if you can demonstrate with evidence that you would have been better supported through doing a video. So anything that happens like that, record all your conversations with them if you can in some way. If you can't actually record the conversation, record the time and the date that you made the phone call. If you send it in through your journal, like I say, take screenshots of your journal and so on. Just record everything. It's really important that you do that, because it might be that they say, right, we're not giving you your out of work sickness benefit element. But if that's the case, then you have that evidence to appeal that decision. You can appeal any decision that's made that's not the right one. So always think about that appeal element of things. Don't just think about what's going on. Kind of have a mind to the future. Hope for the best, plan for the worst. That's key with dealing with these things. So, yes, Siege. Send an email as well, because it sounds like that's quite a complicated thing. And housing, generally speaking, is quite complicated. It is good to get in touch with Shelter as well about housing issues. They have an advice and support line. I do recommend giving them a call to chat through things. It's generally speaking, a pretty good organisation, and quite often they have places local to you that would be able to support you. Just give you a quick look at the website. Sorry about that. I transitioned to the wrong screen. So this is Shelter. Where's the phone number? Come on, kids. Where's the phone number? Housing advice. So you've got lots of advice on here. Get help, please. Talk to us. Emergency helpline, online housing advice, and a web chat. So if you're a bit anxious and don't want to speak to somebody on the phone, you can have a chat. Lots of articles on that there, and the emergency helpline. If you are homeless or in that situation, you can call them on that number. So that's shelter.org.uk there. So that's Shelter. They, like I say, quite often they have drop-in centres or clinics or whatever going on in local areas, and sometimes they do a by appointment face-to-face service and can be quite helpful. There isn't one in Worcestershire and Herefordshire. The nearest one is Birmingham, but they're very good up there, and they do spend time looking at the whole thing really. So yeah, give them a look as well. They could be quite helpful. So yes. Right, where are we? 1940. Yeah, it's a bit of a quiet one this evening because obviously I didn't do a lot of promo beforehand about this, and so not got many. So are there any questions, any new questions that we've missed? In the meantime, I'll give you a bit of update on what's going on with the channel and how we're developing there. So as I mentioned in the last show, I'm going to start putting out little polls to sort of see what support people need and what they want to see from the channel, and how it will develop over the next few months, years even. What sort of resources would be useful to you and things like that. Also, I've managed to find some training resources and things so I'm going to go and refresh my knowledge, because it's been a couple of years since I did detailed training on all of these subjects. So I'm going to go back in and refresh my knowledge and things like that. We're also thinking we might start doing a bit of a podcast type thing as well, where we speak to people who are either dealing with a situation like this, or are whatever they're going through. Maybe even speaking to professionals as well, who might be able to give us some sort of insights as to what to do or what to expect in any given situation. Might be, for example, that it's a health and social care side of things. That's sort of kind of an area that I want to kind of support people with as well. I know it's not quite as popular, not that benefits are popular in that sense, but there's still a lot of people out there that benefit from that sort of thing. So, please do, let us know what kind of things that you want to see for the future. So, question just Zoe Summers. Sorry if you've answered this, I'm late. No, that's fine. Turn up when you like. That's the other good thing about this channel. I genuinely do not mind answering questions again and again and again. If you turn up late in the show, then that's fine. However, this question I haven't answered. So, I don't know what's going on here, but for some reason I'm seeing the stream in the background from about 20 minutes ago, but okay. Can people let me know? You can see me right now, yeah? Okay. So, sorry I'm late. If I'm late. Is there any news from Labour to reverse the bank spying fiasco? Well, it's funny. They've been very, very quiet on that subject. There's been nothing indicated about reversing it at all, and in fact all indications are that they're going to do sweet FA about it. It's a bit of an odd one really. They're not suggesting anything particularly groundbreaking on that front at the moment. So how that will pan out, I don't know. I think it's likely that they might have, a different way of looking at it once it, if they get into power, they might have a different approach to it. That's certainly possible. But at the moment, there's no real indication that they plan to reverse it. They're kind of just a bit sort of raising a few questions, what sort of thing, but that's all. There's been no, we are going to reverse this. It's an infringement of civil liberties, which it is. And it's basically, I mean, people used to talk about the nanny state quite a bit, but this is like Big Brother to the max. I mean, the DWP has always had the power to look into your bank accounts if they've got probable cause to think that there is some type of fraud going on. That's always been the case, but it has been on a case-by-case basis based on its merits. They have to have probable cause, or had to. Now, this is just wholesale, just scanning all sorts of bank accounts to pick up who's receiving DWP payments, and if that gets picked up, then it will scan through all your savings and things like that. So, yeah. Yes, average Joe, Labour. Yes, that's who I was talking about. The Tories obviously they're quite happy to push through with this. Labour these days, a lot of people. Sorry, I said Tories. I meant Conservatives. Apologies if you vote blue and that, but I think we all know what they're called by now. But yeah, Labour these days have been sort of suggested to be, Tory light. So yeah, it's hopefully be a bit lighter in that area. But we'll see. I don't want to get too political because I just really don't have any faith in anyone anymore politically. Whoever you vote for, it doesn't seem to make a lot of difference to me. But that's up to you. That is up to you. I encourage debate. That's what I say. Kind debate. Anyway, Stu, is the DWP being taken to court over disability payments? Frequently. Yeah, there's multiple test cases going on at the moment. Well, not test cases, but cases that are used as test cases. So let's see if I can bring up one of the most recent ones. So the Child Poverty Action Group are very, very good at this sort of thing. So I'm just having a quick test case updates. No requirement to request backdating before a claim to universal credit determined. So I was sort of touching on that a little bit earlier. That was published on the 1st of March. Destitute EU nationals with PSS can rely on EU Charter of Fundamental Rights to obtain universal credit. Delays accessing universal credit for claimants with national insurance numbers. That's been another test case. Right to reside based on self-sufficiency. So that's quite an important one. That's come up as a question for me some time ago. So that was 15th of May last year. So yeah, there are these cases going on all the time. So a test case is when people bring a case not with the expectation that they're going to win it, but because they believe that it's sort of testing it out to see if they can sort of set a precedent with it and then take it further if needs be. So sometimes there are direct legal challenges as well. And of course, if you go to CPAG, if you are a welfare benefits advisor, there's a lot of information here. If you're not a welfare benefits advisor, you could become one because they do a lot of free training on here as well. So yeah, it's there's an appeal submission template on there as well, which is really useful. Debt advice handbook, mental health and benefits handbook, welfare benefits and tax credit handbook for subscribers, unfortunately, fuel rights handbook, and a couple of other things as well. So yeah, it's pretty all-inclusive site really. Judicial review. Use our tool to establish whether your client has grounds for a judicial review talent. It's really, really useful website. So great for professionals, but if you're not a professional, you can pretty much find out a lot of different things in there as well. So yeah, give that a look. Right. So it seems to be quietening down on the question side of things. Oh, hard tulip. Okay. Don't go waving that around in public. Can the DWP look at your bank statement and see that money is being sent to my Thai girlfriend in Thailand? And am I allowed to do this? Wise is a money transfer company. I'm on ESA and PIP. Now, please forgive me for saying this, but I hope that you've met this person and you're absolutely certain that they are a real human being and that you're not being scammed. Do be careful of that. Assuming, and if you are in a relationship with that person and have been for some time, then that can be offensive, but I'm just saying that as an advisor in a professional context, because obviously a lot of people get caught with that. However, assuming that you are in a loving relationship with this person and get on very well with them, and yes, they will be able to look at your bank statement and see that money is being sent to your Thai girlfriend in Thailand, and they will want to know why you're doing that, potentially, and it depends on how much you're sending. I mean, essentially, how you spend your money is up to you, but if you are then in a position where you are needing extra support with things or taking out loans, things like that, then there might be questions raised. And this is only under that new system that I was just talking about. Generally speaking, unless you are, if you were receiving money from somebody in Thailand and it was going up and up and up, then yeah, they would definitely be onto you about that. But generally speaking, you're probably going to be a lower priority with that as long as you're not doing anything fraudulent. Okay. But yeah, so do take care with that, and apologies, of course, if I've caused any offence with my reply. It was not my intention. So yeah, there we go. Met her in Thailand 3 times. Her 8-year-old daughter has ADHD, and you've Asperger's. Okay, so you're probably understanding of each other's situations and things like that, which is really good. So yeah, is this happening now, Stu? It's in process. Yes, they have already started petitioning bank accounts to set up these systems. Oh, sorry, bank accounts to set it to the banks. So the big 16 banks in the UK have already been contacted by the government to set these things up and are in the process of developing and installing and implementing these new systems. It won't necessarily all come on in one go. Some of the banks that are not included in the Big 16 haven't yet been contacted by the DWP to have this process set up. So it will be coming through in fits and starts over the next 12 months. So by the time we get into 2025, it will be in all banks. Zoe Summers is saying full rollout by 2027. It's going to be quicker than that, I think. There are going to be some, like I say, those smaller banks that aren't going to be in it, but they, to start with, but they are going to be targeted as well. So if you're in a position thinking, wow, maybe if I move my money into a smaller bank, don't do that. They will see you do that, and then they'll ask you questions. So yeah. What do I mean by anything fraudulent? That's hard to narrow down. Fraud covers quite a number of things. So I suppose, yeah, I shouldn't use such general terms in that way in this kind of conversation, because that can be confusing. But in terms of benefit fraud, it would be anything where you are receiving money that you shouldn't be receiving, basically. So if you're saying that you are that you have less money than you do have in your bank account. So one of the top end allowable amount with universal credit is £16,000. It's about the same housing benefit and council tax support. The bottom end, where you need to get in touch with them to say how much you've got in savings, is £6,000. So you will, if you've got over £16,000 in your bank account and you're claiming universal credit, then that would be seen as fraudulent, because you shouldn't be receiving universal credit. You should be paying yourself a notional income from your capital savings. Okay, if you've got capital tied up in property that you live in, then that's excluded. That's fine. But if you, like I say, if you have capital that's available to you in a bank and you're claiming, or you're saying that you've got more children than you have, or that you're disabled when you're not, or whatever, those kind of things. So, if they're looking at your bank account and you're receiving, and this is what we're worried about with it, is kind of false accusations of fraud happening for people, is like they might look at your bank account and maybe you're receiving PIP and you're getting the enhanced mobility component in that, and then they see a subscription in your bank account for John's gym down the road for like £80 a month, then they'll be sort of saying, well, hang on a minute, you said you were disabled, but I can see you've got this gym membership. Why is that? Are you going to the gym? And those kind of things, and ask questions. Now, it may well be that you've been told by your doctor that you need to go and have physiotherapy, and you've got the gym membership because you're getting sports massage down there, which is specific to your particular condition, and you shouldn't really have to argue that with them. But this is what I'm talking about. So it's either anything that is fraudulent, but there's also the concern around things that could be perceived to be fraudulent. So yes, there we go. HU, I'm on ESA in the support group. If I take out the 25% tax-free on my pension, would it affect my benefit? Yes, potentially. So if you get any lump sum that takes you over the allowable amounts on ESA or universal credit, whatever it is, if you get that go into your bank account, then that will be considered notional income. So do bear that in mind. I've seen a gentleman recently caught out with that who, coming up to his pensionable age, took an advance payment, which meant that his universal credit got stopped, but he'd spent that on something else, and now he is in arrears with his rent and so on, and is facing eviction. So yeah, do be careful with that one. So good name as well, Stuart. You obviously have very clever parents. Yeah, 6K is when you, so average Joe, 6K is when you have to inform the DWP that you have savings, okay? And they will adjust your universal credit from that point. 16K is the absolute maximum that you're allowed to have with savings, and it's different for everybody. So if you've got a penny over 6,000, well, even 6,000, if you've got £6,000 in your bank account, you must let the DWP know. Has 10 points met on making journey, and Citizens Advice said she should get a blue badge. Council said no. Fed up of jumping through hoops. Not sure why the council said no. She's got 10 points, and you sent in the PIP thing. They should have awarded it. It's an automatic entitlement to blue badge. So I would challenge that one, John. Definitely challenge that. I'm certainly with you on jumping through hoops. It just gets ridiculous one day to the next. Yeah, so Zoe Summers, as a privacy matter, is it okay to set up an offshore account to have my benefits transferred from a UK bank into the offshore account and do all my direct debits from that offshore account? Well, privacy terms, it's probably fine, but if you do that, oh no, I see what you mean. I ignore what I just said then. As a privacy, is it okay to set up an offshore account? No, basically, no. So if you were to do that, then they would probably stop your benefits. Also, you would have difficulty setting up direct debits with offshore accounts. So yeah, a lot of banks and companies wouldn't do it that way. So yeah. Okay. Just seeing Hard Tulip's comment there. Okay. Yeah, that's fine, as I say. But yeah, we do. The truth is, Hard Tulip, we don't really know what it is they're going to pick up on and cause problems with. until it's fully up and running, and we can see some test cases coming through as to what they flagged on people's bank accounts and things like that. Like I say, we just, it could be that they perceive some sort of fraud where there isn't, and that's what we're all concerned about, but we can't say for certain. So yeah, hopefully that will be fine. Also have a PIP review coming soon. Will this form be as hellish as the first form, and will there be a face-to-face meeting? No, it shouldn't be as hellish at all. You would get the light touch review form. You will need to make sure you complete every section where you were awarded points before, and even ones where you weren't awarded points if you have got problems there, and say that your issues that you face on a day-to-day basis, your challenges, daily living challenges, are the same, or if they've got worse, put they've got worse, or if they've got better, that they've got better, and only provide extra detail where they don't already know something there. And there may or may not be a face-to-face meeting. They are struggling with demand. More likely, most people are getting telephone reviews now, and quite a significantly large number of people aren't even having those, which is good for them. Yep, totally agree with that one from well, not totally agree, but yeah, I'm struggling to love Britain. I'm struggling to love it. But there are some really fantastic people in Britain. That's the thing you've got to remember. It does get so like, oh my God, I can't take any more sort of thing. But actually, there's been some really lovely people in the chat, and you've all been supportive of each other as well, which is fantastic to see. And, I've... I'm always warmed doing this show is to how many people support each other in it, and I just encourage people to keep doing that. And although sometimes it can seem a bit grumpy, especially when the weather's like it has been lately, it's really hard going. But as I always say with this, if you're going through hell, keep going, because the alternative is worse. It's a famous quote by someone. Anyway, we're coming to the end of the show, so I'm going to start wrapping up. I've seen a thing from Joanne. So I collect dolls, I sell one to buy another. Will this money be seen by the DWP as earnings, even though it goes back out? It shouldn't be, but again, I can't say for sure, Joanne. I would think amounts... I'm not sure how much one of those dolls costs, but if it's small amounts, then I can't see that would be a problem in that way. Generally, selling personal property isn't really seen as an income unless it were to take you over the allowable amount for the month and that sort of thing. So if it's low, then don't think there will be too many problems with that. It's only if it's a sort of significantly regular thing, like if you shift in like $200 a month, then that might get picked up. But if it's like $1 a month or whatever, and you're just treating yourself occasionally, then there shouldn't be a problem with that. 400 quid for a doll. Okay. I'm not judging. You can see in the background here, I've got some like geeky stuff there. That stuff probably not expensive, but people spend a lot of money on those things, and it's good. Whatever you love, do it. But yeah, I just, when people say dolls to me, I always think of those quite scary looking ones. But yeah, everybody in this community should give themselves a slap on the back. Unless you've got a bad back, obviously. Thanks, Duke. Yes, everybody do that. Sorry, but my PIP is up in September. Should I ring DWP or wait for paperwork? Just wait for the paperwork, Betty Boo. Just wait for the paperwork. Stuart, I heard that on PIP you can go abroad for 13 weeks, 1 month if you are on housing benefit, 1 month if on ESA. If I phoned them and asked them if I could go abroad for 12 weeks to Thailand. Thoughts? the general rule is if you go abroad for more than 4 weeks at a time, that you should let them know, and then let them decide. So yeah, give them a shout. Hard Tulip, give them a shout before you go anywhere, and just work out what's what they let you do, basically. For sure, they are therapy. Yeah, no doubt, absolutely. We all have our therapy things, and I absolutely encourage it. That is quite a large amount for a doll, though, so just be careful of that. And what I would say is, if you keep in receipts and you can show that what comes in goes back out, and it's a thing and it's a collection that you have, just always keep evidence of these things just in case. So yeah, and yeah, if you, like I say, it would also be the amount of dolls that you were shifting, like one doll, 400 quid a month, 400 in, 400 out. There's no profit on that. If you were buying a doll for 400 quid and selling it for 800, that might be a different thing. So can they stop your PIP at review out of the blue when there are no changes? As long as you filled in the form correctly, that shouldn't happen, but it doesn't mean that it won't. So, just bear that in mind. Don't panic, though, because the majority of people at review at the moment are just getting their award continued. The challenge is if somebody's needs have increased, they're probably just going to keep it going at the same rate. So, yeah. Right, anyway, I've got to stop doing this because I'm getting quite tired, and we're coming to the end of the show. Quite interesting about dolls, actually. But yeah, Star Wars as well. Hard Tulip's a Star Wars fan, so good. Yeah, lots of Star Wars stuff gets sold for stupid money. Yeah, okay. So, yeah. Right, anyway, thanks to everyone, and especially to the Duke and Nuke, for managing all of your questions. That's been really great to have him there, and and for everyone joining in as well and supporting each other. It's been really great to do this show, particularly as it was out of the blue, and there's not been many of us here. It's quite nice in a way. So yeah, coming up, I'll be doing, all being well, the Q&A show at the start of next month, and I'll be putting some new videos out. I should have a bit more time to do a few more videos over the next few weeks, so look out for those. And yeah, thank you all, and pass on love to everyone. If anybody you know might need this kind of thing, tell them to tune in, give me a like, give me a subscribe, hit those heart buttons, hit the notification bell, all that sort of stuff. And most of all, be kind to yourself and look after yourself as much as possible. And don't let these things worry you too much. Sometimes it's really bad, but quite often it works out okay. So don't worry too much. All right. Anyway, thank you all for joining, and I am going to now transition over to my screen and say goodbye. Goodbye.